Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our class today. Happy Tuesday. And this class is on the listing agreement. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Robert Rodriguez. I'll be your instructor today. Guys, we are recording our session. You can always find our sessions inside of our YouTube channel. I'm going to go ahead and share that YouTube link with you guys right now in the chat. Those of you that have not visited the YouTube channel, pretty much every single training that we hold here at Elite Ocean View Realty, we load it to the YouTube channel so you guys can watch at a later time. Guys, if you have any questions, please feel free and ask. We do have a lot of new realtors that are in the training right now and some more experienced realtors. Of course, we are going to go over the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. And that is the contract that you guys need to get signed from a seller when you're about to list the property. All right, so we are logged in right now to Form Simplicity, which is, of course, one of the programs available to us inside of your Miami dashboard. This is Form Simplicity right here. I'm not only going to go over the listing agreement, but I'm going to show you how to get it all prepared and then what documents are needed in order to get a listing agreement signed and get that listing up on the MLS. All right, so we are going to log into Form Simplicity, and that gets you into this program right here. Of course, Form Simplicity is where we will, put together the contracts for sale, also to list a property, to purchase the property, and to lease a property if you're working with a renter. Now, before we show you how to put together the listing agreement, I'd like to show you where that listing agreement is located. You guys will have access to blank forms, which is up here. And we want to go ahead and click on blank forms. Now, you guys can always use the blank forms library right over here on the upper right-hand side, and you can look for the listing agreement, or you can go directly to packages, which is right here, and you can gain access to the listing agreement that is inside of our packages. I recommend that you guys go to packages and that you use the package called exclusive right to sell. This is where the listing agreement is located. And the reason why we want you to use packages, of course, is because the listing agreement is already pre-filled. Some of the lines that we fill as agents, if you use the blank form, you're going to have to fill it out if you don't know how to. We've done it for you. So this is why we recommend that you go straight to the packages and you click on the exclusive right to sell package. And then right here, we do have the exclusive right of sale, listing agreement, transaction broker. We are all transaction brokers, remember? So that's why we're going to be using this one here. Now, from the package itself, you're not able to access the listing agreement. Notice I cannot open it. Yes, I can print it. Yes, I can download it, but I'm not able to open it. Okay, I'm also, or I am able to create a transaction from this package, meaning that I can create a new folder using this form so we can start putting together this agreement. All right. Now, what other forms are needed when you're working a listing? All right. You're going to need the seller's disclosure. All right. So if I go back to the forms library, right? I go back to the forms library, you're going to come here to the search right here, and you're just going to type in the word seller. All right. You're going to type in the word seller, and you're going to see here under the Florida, you may find the seller's disclosure residential, which is right here, the seller's property disclosure. Now, you're not going to need this right away, but you are going to eventually need it. So when you are together with the homeowner and you're getting that listing agreement signed, it's recommended that you also get the seller's property disclosure signed by the seller as well. All right. So we're going to go over first that listing agreement. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fake transaction or a sample transaction so I can show you how to add these forms, and then we're going to go over each form. All right, so for that, we're going to go right here to where it says transactions. And then we're going to click on start a new transaction right here on the upper left corner. All right, so we are getting ready to go to an appointment. We're going to meet with the seller. Of course, you're going to take a listing presentation with you. You may take a CMA with you, and you most definitely want to take a completely filled out listing agreement. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put in here an address of a property. And I'm just using a sample property, but it's a real property. All right, so that's the address. We're going to go ahead and call it the same thing, 1210 Pizarro Street. That's your transaction name. This is, of course, a residential property, and it is a listing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and select listing. Now, we are going to select which package, the exclusive right to sell package right here. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and click on create a transaction. And now my transaction is completed. I want you guys to notice the forms that were inside that package are now part of my transaction. This is the exclusive right of sale listing agreement. This over here is the modification to the listing agreement. So if there's any changes you need to make, sort of like an addendum, right? But for the listing. Then this is the modification to the listing agreement right here. You have a short sale addendum, a commission agreement, and a referral agreement. All right. So I don't want to confuse you guys. I'm going to go ahead and erase these three right here. We're going to keep the first two. All right. So we're going to select these three right here. We're going to go to the upper right corner, click on delete, and we're going to delete that. All right. And as I mentioned before, we are going to need the seller's disclosures. How do we add that? You go here to where it says add blank forms. And once again, here in the search, we're just going to type in the word sellers. We're going to search for the seller's disclosure, residential. Here it is. Select it, and then go ahead and click on add to transaction. Now, if the property was built in 1978 or prior to 1978, you may need to also show the seller a lead-based pamphlet. All right. So you guys can always go back up here to the add blank forms. And once again, you want to type in maybe the word lead. You want to search for the pamphlet. You don't need the disclosure yet. You're going to let the buyer who's purchasing the property go ahead and send a lead-based paint disclosure. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and include the pamphlet right here, lead info pamphlet, and add to transaction. All right. So what would be next? Of course, we're going to open up the exclusive right of sale listing agreement. Now, the reason why we titled the class new listing agreement is because this listing agreement was released or updated back in March of this year. All right, so the revised listing agreement was March of 2024, and I believe there's yet another revision coming shortly. You know, we are going to go through some changes this summer, especially in August, and you still have part of this listing agreement, you still have the compensation field and the cooperating brokerage compensation. So you have this compensation field here, that's fine. You know, this is fine right here. However, you do have here cooperating brokers compensation right here. And that may change. That may change, but we'll go over that. All right, so let's start from the very beginning. What do you do with the listing agreement? Line number 2 is where you're going to place the seller's information. All right, now one way that you guys can look up seller's information is by going to your gateway and you want to open up IMAP right here. You can also Realtor.
Y me
Even
dijo,
use
nada,
YouTube
ese
variety programs.
venga ahí, después le dice a la enfermera que le va a hacer un realito cuando vea para ver si ella.
All right, guys, if you can remain on mute unless you have any questions, please, so we can have a clear recording. All right, so yeah, you can open up IMAP, for example, come over here, and we want to take a look at the owner of this property, right? So you can come over here, owner name, And we're gonna put in here the address of the property. And here are the owners' names, all right? Florentino and Maria Vasallo. You know, you can copy it, right? You can copy it, or you can just write it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put it over here. And those are the owners' names. Now, if you want to fix this a little bit, because it should read Florentino and Maria, you know, you can do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that myself. All right, copy here, erase, and then come over here and paste. And now it should be good to go. All right. And then right here is where you're gonna place, oh, well, line number 3, it's already pre-filled for you. So line number 3 is Elite Ocean View Realty. It's not your name, it's our company's name. Okay. Now here in line number 6 is we're gonna place our listing date and the date that the listing expires. So you come over here, and the list date would be today's date or the date that you plan on listing the property. And then the expiration date, I'm gonna go ahead and count 6 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so we're gonna take this all the way to the 24th of December. And that would be our listing expiration date. Now here you're gonna place the street address, right? So it's gonna be what, 1210 Pizarro Street. And then this is in Coral Gables, Florida, 33134. Now here you're gonna place the legal description. Where can you get the legal description? Well, once again, go back to IMAP. Go back to IMAP and let's take a look. Where is the legal description? Here it is. Okay, so you can get the legal description like this. I'm gonna show you another trick shortly. So I just want to show you here, legal description. We're gonna copy it, and you guys can come over here and you can paste it if it allows you to. See how it does not allow me to paste it? All right, let's go ahead and save this here. And let me show you how you can get the legal description onto your contract. Ready? I'm gonna go ahead and close it. And then you see right here where it says import property data, we're gonna go ahead and hit that. Otherwise, you would have to have written the legal description letter by letter, character by character. So we're gonna go ahead and click on tax search. Okay, and then for house, we're gonna go ahead and put in 1210 Street. We're gonna put in Pizarro. And then this is zip code 33134. And then this is a county of Miami-Dade County. All right, so Miami-Dade. We're gonna click on find tax data. There's your property, right? You're gonna go ahead and select it. You're gonna come down here, you're gonna hit save information to the transaction, continue. Save data. Right? Now let's open that listing agreement again. Watch the legal description now be part of this here. See that right there? Legal description. Now you have it part of your transaction. All right. Now notice here how we had something weird happen in the name of the seller. All right, so not a problem. We're just gonna go back over here. We're gonna copy this seller's information once again, and we'll just go ahead and paste it. All right. So keep in mind something may happen like it did, and you just want to fix it. All right, so personal property, including appliances. So notice that we have written for you all appliances. If there's any other personal property that will be included with the sale, not sold additionally or sold for an additional price, all right, you're gonna place it here. That means that if there is, let's say, a jacuzzi or a spa outside in the backyard, and that is included with the sale, then you know that's personal property, including appliances. You're gonna place it here. Okay. Occupancy, property is not currently occupied by a tenant. If it is occupied by a tenant, you're gonna place here a check mark where it says is. If it's occupied by the owner of the property, then you're gonna place here is not. If you select is, then on the right-hand side, when does the lease term end? So let's say it was occupied by a tenant and the lease ends on November 1st. Then you're going to check the box where it says is, and then go to the right and you're going to place the date when the lease term expires. All right, line number 22 is the price. Of course, you're going to put in here the price of the listing. We're going to go ahead and put in $949,900. All right, so that would be my list price, $949,900. You do not have to place a comma, it places it for you. Now, what financing terms are you accepting? This is almost $1 million. It's not going to be available for VA or FHA, so we're going to remove VA and FHA. We're going to leave cash and conventional. All right, if there are other terms for financing that the seller accepts, then also select other, and then on the space provided, you want to write what type of financing. If the seller is also offering seller financing, then you want to check here, seller financing. Seller will hold a purchase money mortgage in the amount of, then what is the amount that the seller is going to finance? Usually when you see a seller financing deal, it's probably for like a few years until the property buyer has enough saved up or their finances are in place in order to take out their own mortgage. You rarely see a seller financing deal where the seller finances it for the full term of 15 or 30 years. All right, so you're going to place here the amount that the seller is going to financing and what terms, under what terms. All right. If the buyer is going to assume the mortgage, then you have assumption of existing mortgage. Buyer must assume existing mortgage for the dollar amount plus any assumption fee. All right. So once again, the seller is going to have to, if this is the option, these are options that are very rarely used, but if this is going to be an option, then of course the seller needs to check with their lender, their mortgage holder, see what the options are for people to assume the mortgage. Seller expenses. Seller will pay mortgage discount or other closing costs not to exceed what percentage of the purchase price. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put in here 0. All right, we're going to put 0. Broker obligations. All right, so you got broker obligations. Broker agrees to make diligent and continue efforts to sell the property in accordance with this agreement until a sales contract is pending on the property. Okay, then we have the MLS, multiple listing service. Placing the property in the multiple listing service is beneficial to the seller because the property will be exposed to a large number of buyers. All right, so it explains right here our duties, what we're going to be doing, okay, as a listing agent. Broker authority. Seller authorizes broker to market the property to the public. Okay, also public marketing includes, but it's not limited to, flyers, yard signs, digital marketing on public facing websites, brokerage websites, displays, IDX. All right, email blasts. So all types of marketing. So they're agreeing to all of this, right? Public marketing also includes marketing the property to real estate agents outside broker's office. How do you do that? Of course, through the MLS. All right. Place appropriate transaction signs on the property except in paragraph 6 if it's checked below. You have used the seller's name in connection with the marketing or advertising of the property. Display the property on the internet except the street address. Now let's take a look at this. All right, what does this mean? Of course, when you're taking a listing agreement and you want to market the property on the internet, you are almost always going to use the property address. You want people to go to the property, you want to sell the property, you want people to see where the property is located. Now, if you have an owner who wants to remain private, does not want to show their address on the internet, then you want to go ahead and have them check here, all right, where they're not going to display their street address. You can display the property on the internet, but not the street address. So what that means is that when the property shows up on websites like Realtor.com, all right, it's going to say address not available. It'll show that the property is in Coral Gables, but it will not show the address on the internet. All right, so there's another opt-out right here. This is sellers does not authorize broker to display the property on the MLS. So that's very rarely used. Once again, that's maybe the seller wants to give you the list agreement, but does not want to place the property on the MLS, does not want other agents on the MLS to see their property. And they're gonna have to check right here. Seller does not authorize broker to display the property on the MLS. Very rarely used. All right, line 63, seller understands and acknowledges that if seller checks option 6B, broker will be limited to marketing the property only to agents within their brokerage office. So I'm going to tell you when this is used. This is usually used when the listing agent already has a buyer for this property, right? If I am approaching this listing and I'm talking to the seller and I said, seller, I've got a buyer, he's going to pay you full price, then we just check this. We don't have to enter the listing in the MLS, and we just get the deal done that way. Okay, so that's pretty much when that's going to take place. Then whose initials go here? The seller's initials go here. All right, seller's obligation. In consideration of broker's obligation, seller agrees to cooperate with the broker in carrying out all the purposes of this agreement. So the seller must be available to show the property. The seller must open their home. The seller also has duties and responsibilities. Okay. Recognize that the broker may be subject to additional MLS obligations and potential penalties for failure to comply with them. They're also going to provide broker with keys to the property and make the property available for broker to show during reasonable times. They will inform the broker before leasing, mortgaging, or otherwise encumbering the property. So any changes really, they need to let us know. They need to let us know they plan on leasing the property. If they're going to refinance the property, they need to let us know. All right, they're gonna also identify broker and hold broker harmless for losses, damages, costs, and expenses of any nature, including attorney's fees from liability to any person that broker incurs because the seller's negligence. All right, so representations, misrepresentation. So please read this, all right, and know how to explain it to the seller. You guys will not be responsible for all of this here, okay? Perform any act reasonably necessary to comply with FRIPTA. All right, make all legally required disclosures, including all the facts that materially affect the property's value. So once again, that's going to be part of that seller's disclosure that we will be providing to them. So it is written here, none at time of listing. Seller to provide a seller's property disclosure. So this was written by our office. I actually would just erase this here. All right, seller to provide seller property disclosure. And that's probably what I would write.
Robert,
Yes,
you got a minute to answer a related question?
it's a related question, sure.
I put an offer on a property and the listing agent says that the owner is not responding back to him anymore.
Well, that's not a related question.
Because up there it says that the seller is obligated, to comply with the agent and be able to show the property.
Well, it is. I mean, you have to have a serious conversation with the listing agent and see if the listing agent is lying to you or not. Chances are they probably are lying to you. They probably have their own buyer for the property. That's
Gotcha.
that's an excuse they're giving you. The seller's not answering my questions or anything. Maybe the listing agent already has a buyer for that property. So
Well,
you start first with the listing agent, then if you don't get anything from the listing agent, then you go straight to the broker.
gotcha. Okay,
If
makes sense.
if the broker is the listing agent, then you know,
Uh-huh. Okay, got it.
yeah,
Thanks, Rob.
yeah, no problem. All right, guys, so moving on to section 8, compensation. And this is where I foresee a change in the listing agreement coming soon. But it still shows here the compensation. So compensation, seller will compensate broker as specified below for procuring a buyer who is ready. All right. Seller will pay brokers as follows. So this is the amount that you will charge the seller to market the property and produce a buyer. Okay, our duties is to market the property and hopefully come up with our own buyer, but chances are that someone else is going to bring us a buyer. So right here is the amount, the total commission that we're going to be charging. So we have put in here 6%. Of course, that is negotiable. You present it at 6%. If they tell you otherwise, they tell you, no, that's too high, then you're going to bring it down. Okay, so that's going to be the compensation. Let's not call it commission, guys. You're going to get in trouble if you start calling this commission. It's not commission, it's compensation. And it's going to be negotiable. How low can you go? Ask our broker. You want to call our broker and you want to say, hey, broker, what would be an acceptable amount that we can accept for, for a listing agreement? So we've all seen on the MLS 3%. We've all seen 2.5%. We've all seen 2%. What does that mean? Well, that usually means that if you see a 2.5%, that usually means they took out a listing at 5%, which should mean that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that. If you see that they're offering 2% on the MLS, then chances are they took out a listing agreement at 4%. Then, of course, 6%, that means they're dividing it equally, 3 and 3. All right. So all the way down here, number 9, this is where you're actually going to say that I am going to pay, right? I'm going to share my 6% commission. I'm going to pay the cooperating broker, right? The buyer's broker, 3%. 3% and 3%. It's already filled in for you guys. All you need to do is make sure that if you are getting a 5% commission on or compensation on the listing agreement, that you come down here and you change this to 2.5%, 2.5%, and 2.5%. Any questions on this? This is going to change, guys. We are not going to be permitted to put on the MLS the 3% or the 2.5% or the 2%. All right. It's going to be in another fashion. It's going to be recognized as a concession. All right. And it's not on the listing agreement yet. It is still talking about cooperating with compensation to other brokers. That's not until August 19th. And to be quite honest, 17th or 19th, August 17th. To be quite honest, the NAR has not yet released, or FAR, because this is Florida Realtors, has not yet released the new listing agreement and how we're going to react to the new law, legal changes. All right, so I did skip a little bit here. That's this over here, broker's fee due in the following circumstances. All right, read through this. And then check this one out here. All right, says that if the seller refuses or fails to sign an offer at the price and terms stated in the agreement, defaults on the executed sales contract, or agrees with a buyer to cancel an executed sales contract, if within 180 days after termination date, that's your protection period. We recommend that you leave 180 days, that's 6 months. Seller transfers or contracts to transfer the property or any interest in the property to any prospects within whom the seller, broker, or any real estate licensee communicated regarding the property before termination. So basically, they are still responsible to pay you your commission within 180 days if you terminate the listing, right? They asked to terminate the listing and they sell the property to a buyer you produced, right? A potential buyer that you produced. Now, if they sign a listing agreement with another agent, then you're no longer protected. All right, so if they do sign a listing agreement with another agent, then you are no longer protected. And that's what that means. All right, but if they cancel the listing and end up selling the property off market to a buyer you produced, or anyone really, you're going to be compensated through this agreement. And the seller must know what that means. All right, they must know, hey, look, I cannot just cancel the listing because I want to, because I don't enjoy working with you. There is compensation that's going to be due. All right, so retain deposits. If you are going to put in a retainer fee, then you're gonna put the retainer fee here. You got conditional terms here. You want to read through the conditional terms: dispute resolution, attribution, or arbitration, sorry, and miscellaneous. Guys, it's a very easy agreement to get signed. You should be able to produce a listing agreement in less than 5 minutes. All right, it's all pre-filled for you. In the additional terms, it says seller will pay $495 transaction broker fee to Elite Ocean View Realty at closing. All right, so when you enter into an agreement, the title company will ask, hey, is there any processing fee? There is $495. Let this $495 come out of the seller's proceeds at closing. If they don't take this proceeds out at closing, then you, the agent, you will be responsible for paying this transaction broker fee. All right, so who signs? Seller signs, right? Seller signs. And then authorized sales associate, that's you. You sign right here and you date it. Who initials every page? The sellers initial every page and you initial every page. So this is a document that you will have to initial as well and sign as well. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and close this document out. We're going to go ahead and save it. All right. And let's go over that seller's property disclosure. It's right here. Let me tell you what a property disclosure is. The seller is going to state the facts that they know about the home. All right, so basically it's a bunch of yes, no's, or I don't know. When it comes to the structure, systems, and appliances, are the structures including roofs, ceilings, walls, doors, windows, foundation, and pool, hot tub, and spa structurally sound and free of any leaks? So basically, yes, no, don't know. And they're going to go down the entire list, marking yes, no, and I don't know. Now, you don't really need this document to list the property on the MLS, but I recommend that you get this document filled out and signed by the sellers, because the buyer agent is going to ask for this document. Notice how the sellers signed the document and the buyers signed the document. All right, so it is recommended that as you get that listing agreement signed, that you also present a seller's disclosure and you go down the list, checking off the yes, the no's, and the don't knows, and we get this signed and turned in as well. Okay. Now we turn in our listing agreement and seller's disclosure to our transaction coordinator. Guys, if you don't know who the transaction coordinator contact information is, I'm going to go ahead and share that with you right now in the chat. All right, so it's Elite Office TC@gmail.com. You must turn in the listing agreement to our transaction coordinator. If you do not, within 10 days, your listing will be canceled from the MLS. You cannot enter a listing on the MLS without turning in the proper paperwork. All right. So once you guys get a listing agreement, please email to eliteofficetc@gmail.com your listing agreement and everything will be fine, right? They will respond. Congratulations on your new listing agreement. Now, let's take a look at that modification to listing agreement right here. Sometimes you're gonna have to use this. So let's go ahead and open it up and let's see what this looks like. All right, so modification to the listing agreement. Termination date will be, all right, the price and terms will be, compensation to broker will be. What are we doing here? Are we terminating the listing agreement? So right here we have termination of the listing of the listing agreement. So if somehow the seller decides they want to cancel the listing from the MLS, then you're gonna go and you agree to have the listing canceled from the MLS. Then you're gonna come here, you're gonna get one of these, and you're gonna put here the termination of date and the price and terms will be. So do they owe you anything? Compensation to broker will be. You got compensation is owed to broker if the property is transferred within 180 days. You want to put that in there. All right. Fee to broker if deposit is retained by owner, any fee to the broker. Leasing fee to the broker will be, cancellation fee to the broker will be, what fee are you charging for cancellation? Here's an example, guys. You spent $1,000 on a for sale sign and some marketing materials, and you want that $1,000 back because you feel like they're canceling on you. They're not giving you a real shot at selling the property. You know, they refuse to show the property. They refuse for you to have open houses. Then you want to at least collect a cancellation fee. You must have proper documentation of what you spent. All right. You can't just say $5,000 when in reality, the yard sign cost you 500 and some postcards that you mailed out cost you, say, 1,000. So in that case, you want to go ahead and charge $1,500. So you must have proper documentation. Okay, so this is how you cancel a listing. All right, it's the modification to the listing agreement, and you want to go ahead and send it over so the sellers can sign it. All right. Any questions on the listing agreement, exclusive right of sale listing agreement? Now, if you're going to list a property for rent, right? You're gonna list a property for rent. It is a different agreement. And for that, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the packages once again, right here. All right. And you see right here, exclusive right to lease. And it's the exclusive right to lease listing agreement. All right, we're gonna go ahead and add that one to the transaction as well. And this is the exclusive right to lease listing agreement, guys. There it is. All right, I'm gonna open it up just to give you a quick glance at the listing agreement for lease. It looks the same, right? You got the owners and you got the brokerage. You got the listing date, expiration date. You got the address of the property with the full legal description. All right, and then right here, rental period and rate. So we're going to be renting this property yearly, and you're going to put in the rates. Let's go ahead and put in like $6,000. All right, so your monthly rent here, 6,000. If it's a month to month, we're going to put it up for month to month. Then you're going to put it here. And if it's a weekly rental or a seasonal. All right. Advanced rents, if there's any advanced rents, will be held who by the owner, right? So let's say that the owner is requesting 2 months prepaid and 2 deposits. So they're the ones, the owners are the ones responsible for holding the advanced rents. All right, advanced rent in the amount of, security deposit in the amount of, pet deposits in the amount of, is it refundable? Is it non-refundable? Okay, association application fee. If this house is in an association, you're gonna put in the association application fee. And then once again, just like the listing agreement for sale, it goes over your obligations. Broker's obligation, display appropriate transaction signs, including for rent sign on the property. You are not going to use the owner's names in connection with marketing or advertising the property. Use a lockbox system to access and show the property. All right. Request a credit check on prospective tenants at owner's expense. No, not at owner's expense. So you're going to go ahead and remove that, right? Execute leases on behalf of the owner. Owner must execute a special power of attorney. So no, the owner themselves are going to sign off on a lease agreement. Unless you've been hired as the property manager and you have the power of attorney, or they have a power of attorney assigning you the duties of making decisions, then yeah, you can go ahead and select execute leases on behalf of the owner. All right, compensate any sub-agents or cooperating brokers in this transaction except when and not in the owner's best interest. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and complete lease forms as permitted by law. Okay, go through this listing agreement for a lease, guys, and then compensation, right? Right here, it's 10% of the gross value. That's the compensation that you're going to charge. And then usually, like you see it on the MLS, 5% to the cooperating broker. Now, if you don't want to do it in percentages, it could be first month, and then half of 1 month is what you're going to place here, right? It could be 1 month, the total compensation, and then right here, you're going to be doing not 5%, but you're going to be doing half or 50%. All right, guys, so that's your listing agreement for a lease. I just wanted to kind of show it to you and know that there are two separate listing agreements. What other type of listing agreements are there? All right, I want to go ahead and come up here to blank forms, and I want to show you. In the library up here, we're going to go ahead and just type in the word listing. These are the exclusive listing agreements that you see here. So we have the exclusive right of sale listing agreement for a commercial property. If you're going to list a commercial property, that is the agreement you will use. There's the exclusive right of sale listing agreement, consent to transition to transaction broker. Guys, we don't need this one. We should already have the transaction broker listing agreement signed. But in the event that you got a listing agreement, single agency signed, and you are going to represent both parties, you are going to have to now transition to a transaction broker. So to prevent this from happening, just get the transaction broker listing agreement signed in the first place. And now you will not need the transition to a transaction broker. Then there's the exclusive right of listing agreement, no brokerage. There's the single agent where you will only represent the seller. All right, so you cannot procure a buyer if you're using a single agent. All right, then there's the lease listing agreement right here. Limited service listing agreement, which we are going to basically ignore, right? We're not going to use that much. Modification to the listing agreement, short sale addendum, and vacant land listing agreement, guys. There is no non-exclusive listing agreement, like an open listing form. There is none. Okay, so we're not going to be using that. I mean, it's the limited service listing agreement, really, but you know, we're taking a listing agreement, it's going to be exclusive, right? We should have exclusive right to sell this property. And that's how you look up listing agreements. Those are the ones. Again, as a reminder, we always use the transaction broker listing agreement. All right, so we went over that to lead. You know, there's also going to be a mold addendum and things like that. But those are all things that um the buyer agent will produce. Okay. And we'll have to sign off when there's a contract on the property. Any questions on what we just went over? Okay, because your next step, of course, is to place the property in the MLS. All right, you're going to place the property on the MLS. And of course, that is by going to Matrix. And we do have a class in our YouTube channel that goes over how to list a property on the MLS. But for those of us that have not seen that yet, or we're brand new, it's simply by going to the MLS, and you're going to go here, click on More, Add Edit. And we're going to enter a new listing. We're going to enter a new listing. You're going to follow the steps. Everything that is required must be filled out. Everything in yellow must be filled out. So let me show you. Add new, single family home, Miami-Dade County. And we're going to put in here 1210. We're going to put in here Pizarro. And we're going to search. There's the property. There are the owners. Fill. All right, we're going to click on fill. And we're going to go here. Location information. General information. Remarks. Rooms. Additional information. Financial information. Guys, every single property, or not property, but every single yellow field must be filled in correctly. All right, general information, everything that's in yellow must be filled in correctly. Remarks, once again, anything in yellow, that must be filled in correctly. Additional information and financial and office information. All right, so you must fill this out correctly. Now, how do we take notes for this when we are at the listing appointment? It's very simple, guys. Go back to Form Simplicity, right? Go to Forms Library. Open the Miami Association. So open this here. And you are going to need the RE1, SCF RE1 form. So let's open that. Every single red R on this form represents all the yellow fields on the listing entry. So if you take this form with you, especially those of us that are brand new and you're getting ready to list your first property, if you take this form with you and you take proper notes of everything that you see in the property, you should not have any issues whatsoever getting this listing agreement uploaded into the MLS. All right, so very important, guys, that you get to know this form and go through this and make sure that you have all of your data ready to input in the MLS. All right, then of course at the end, once you're finished inputting the information, you're going to click on Submit Listing. That's going to activate the listing if you don't have any mistakes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this input. This is not a real listing, of course, so I just canceled it out. And you must upload photos to the listing. You must have at least one photo. So please take plenty of pictures. If you plan on hiring a professional photographer, what I recommend that you do is that you take one or a few photos of yourself, not of yourself, but of the property, but by yourself. Use those photos while you actually get a photographer out to the property to take professional photos of the property. Do not upload a listing in the MLS without a photo. You're going to receive a warning. And if you do not upload a photo within a certain amount of time, they are going to then fine you after they warn you. So let's make sure that we have proper photos in place. All right, guys, so we have now concluded our training on the listing agreement. Does anyone have any questions? Where the listing agreement is located, how to read the listing agreement, how to explain it to the seller, and how to get it signed? Any questions? You guys are very quiet. That means that we understood. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining in today's class. I will share the link with you later on this afternoon. And I want to wish everyone a great rest of your day. And I'll see you guys on Thursday for our next class. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Robert. Have a good day, man. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Dio. Yeah, call me if you have any questions on that other that situation you're having.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Thank you, man.